Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about The Crow. Now, The Crow is a reboot of the previous films that came out a very long while ago, about 20 or so years. Obviously, it had the first movie that came out in 1994, and I think the last one, which was the fourth movie of the franchise, came out in 2005. So it's been a while since they actually did anything to reboot the franchise or give it a sequel ever since then. So going into it, it was pretty much going to be a movie that was pretty much there for a new audience. So I'm just going to say this real quick. I've actually never watched The Crow. And I actually never realized that this was actually a reboot franchise of the original movies. So going into this, I pretty much went with this with a fresh idea to see what this movie was. Now, kind of reading about even the first movie of The Crow was actually very interesting. Knowing that this was the movie that led to Brandon Lee's death when they were filming on set for the 1994 film was kind of reminiscent back then. And I think since that movie came out, it was well received back in the day. But then the sequels never really lived up to the expectations. So, how does the 2024 movie live up? I'm just going to be honest. It's pretty bad. I really struggled with this movie. I don't know what it is, but I really feel like there's just this whole trend now with these gothic superhero, anti-hero type movies that really just don't look good. Like, you had previously Morbius, Madam Web, and now The Crow. I just feel like everything is just accumulated into this really this agonizing experience to watch. Now, when it comes to this review, I'm only going to judge this movie on its own and what I just watched. So I'm not going to make this into any comparison with the previous films. Like I said, this is actually my first exposure to the Crow franchise. So I'm not going to really talk about this movie in comparison with the previous films. So I just want to let you know just before I really talk about this movie. Now, there's a lot of problems with this movie. Now, one of the first problems I have with this film is the story. It's terrible. It's probably one of the most messy, unlogical stories I have ever watched in a film. It really doesn't achieve anything, and really, it doesn't really give any sense of any sort of real synopsis or any character development at all. In fact, there's a lot of really poor character development in this film that just doesn't really have any sort of chemistry at all. One of which is Eric and Shelley in this film. Like, their chemistry is actually awful. Like, they will just, vomit out, like, very generic three-word sentences towards each other. And it really just doesn't really summarize anything. So one of them would say, "Oh, I like your tattoos." Or, "Oh, I like this place. We need to leave this place." How painful is it that you lose the people you love? Just absolutely generic, horrible acting and dialogue. And most of the time, when you really see their chemistry, it's always just like they just vomit each other's mouths by just doing like some kissing scenes and some sex scenes. That is literally it. It is really just the most horrible way of just developing characters at all. So I really think there's a lot of issues like how the story sets itself out. It doesn't really explain the story of like any of the main characters like Eric and Shelley at all, and also like even some of the main villains. Like, some of the main villains as well in this movie are pretty bad, and I don't even really recognize them as villains. But also, like, even the main villain of this movie is horrible as well. Now, the main villain is a character called Vincent Rogue. He's actually played by a well-known actor called Danny Huston, and really he's not really intimidating or really horrifying at all. In fact, really his only real power in this movie is literally just whispering into people's ears and just possessing them. That's it. And it doesn't really look good at all. It's really horribly choreographed, visualized. It's just horrendous. And it doesn't really like prove anything as well. It doesn't really show like what's the reason for it, why he's doing it, and for any reasons. Like, the only thing that he really gets introduced is he tries to get one of Shelley's friends to confess to him, to say that, "Oh, we need to find Shelley, this, that, and the other, da 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 da." And then all of a sudden, it kind of stumbled upon literally trying to find Eric as well, out of nowhere. So it's just like everything about this whole film just makes no sense from a from a plot perspective, a story perspective, even like a whole sequence perspective of how the movie is screenplaying itself. It's just really, really poor writing and poor storytelling. Now, I want to get onto the action of this movie, and it's okay for the best part. The only reason I say it's okay is because there's really very few moments that there's really any action in this film. So there's only like one real scene where they actually do get some good action and some good choreographed visuals as well. But apart from that, that's really rare. And I do think Bill Skarsgård does actually try hard, to really show his real powers in this movie. But man, it was so rare that this was ever going to happen. And it's really a shame as well, because I really think those were really like the only sort of redeemable factors for this film. Apart from that, it's just really just, bloated out scenes that just really just drag on for nowhere. And really when you get to the action, it's like the actual decent part. But even other parts of the action as well, it's not horrifying or thrilling at all. I don't even know why they even bothered making this movie in 18, because really most of the real scenes of action really just comes from the end, that they only get like some really sort of gory scenes, which I don't really think would have really benefited from it anyway, because they could have just probably done it without really trying to visualize, some of the gore and some of the guts and everything and the blood in this movie. They could have just probably like made it less like a 15 or something. It didn't make sense for it to be an 18 to start with. So I really think a lot of this movie is just really missed the mark for me. But yeah, the general theme for this movie, it's very disappointing. So overall, if I have to rate The Crow, I'm going to have to give this movie a 2 out of 10. I really felt sitting through this movie, I really had paralysis, and I just felt so numb with any emotion from this film. It really didn't fill me with any joy at all. And the only really redeemable thing I would say is just the action moments, but very, very rare in this movie. But most of it was just hard to watch. But yeah, let me know what you think of The Crow. And yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.